After 15 long years, a wealthy millionaire discovered incredible love with a hidden cleaning lady. James' heart, at 45, felt like he was living a ghost of his past. Once the life of backyard barbecues, where laughter mingled with the smell of grilling burgers, now the only voices he heard coming from framed photographs of his family. They smiled back at him, frozen in time, while his opulent office hummed with soulless ambition. Each day crushed him a little more, the climb to wealth and status overshadowing everything he once cherished: family, connection, community. It was in this numb solitude that Maria entered his life. A hardworking cleaning lady in her 30s, she moved through the office like a breath of fresh air. He noticed her smile during those shared elevator rides, a warm flicker in his sterile world. The laughter of his children rang in his ears when he watched her deftly handle her cleaning tools. How could someone so full of life exist in such stark contrast to his world of glass and steel? As the pressure mounted, so did his unease. News of international expansion loomed over him like a thundercloud, threatening the roots of his community. He felt like a crumpled piece of paper, ready to be tossed aside. But then, a moment of unspoken connection with Maria sparked something deep within him. There was more to her than just cleaning. She had dreams, ones that called to him, like echoes from a life he longed to reclaim. One evening, with dust motes dancing in the fading light, Maria shared her dream of opening a community center for struggling families. Her words opened a floodgate in him, a longing for purpose rekindled in his chest. The idea of supporting those in need, of making a real impact, pushed against the walls he'd built around his heart. It resonated with what he once found fulfilling: the spirited essence of connection that had faded from his life. But then the storm hit. James's company was embroiled in a scandal that threatened not just his job, but also Maria's hopes and dreams. He stood at a crossroads. The siren call of corporate greed yanked at him, but each day he saw Maria working tirelessly, providing for her ailing mother and energetic children. How could he continue to clamor for something that now felt so trivial? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. He had to make a choice. When the moment came, James rose to defend Maria, showcasing her strength and character during the crisis. That decision was electric, sending shockwaves through his understanding of integrity and community. He invited her over to his luxurious home for the fundraising event, a bold step that sent whispers through the crowd. As the day approached, James found himself caught in a whirlwind of excitement and dread. What would the neighbors say? What would his life look like now? They stood together on the edge of something vibrant, but would their love endure the societal prejudices weighing against them? All he could think was that perhaps the love they would forge might just be the bridge they needed. Yet doubt lingered in the air, thick with the tension of two worlds colliding, leaving him wondering, would their connection survive the storm, or would his past choices tear them apart? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the evening of the fundraiser arrived, cloaking the city in a soft golden glow. James stood by the window of his grand living room, adjusting his tie, feeling the weight of anticipation settling heavily on his shoulders. What had begun as a flicker of hope with Maria now felt like a ticking clock, counting down to a moment that could change everything. The doorbell shattered the silence, sending a rush of nervous energy through him. He opened the door to find Maria standing just beyond the threshold, her beauty more radiant than he remembered. The elegant dress she wore hugged her figure perfectly, capturing the light in a way that made her appear almost ethereal. When their eyes met, his heart raced, forgetting all about the judgment that might lie beyond those walls. "Wow, you look amazing," James stammered, unable to mask the admiration in his voice. Maria smiled, her cheeks tinged with a soft pink. "Thank you. I could say the same about you." The moment felt fragile, like the delicate glass ornament hanging from his mother's old Christmas tree. Their connection shimmered with unspoken words. It was an invitation to step into a garden of possibility, despite the storm waiting outside. As they made their way to the party, the exterior glamour of the wealthy elite felt foreign. Strolling through the front entrance, a nervous energy surged within him, fueled by the whispers that began the moment they entered together. The room felt like a pressure cooker, filled with glances, some curious, some disapproving, prying into their juxtaposed worlds. James directed attention towards the silent auction, as planned, hoping to ease Maria into the chaos. As they moved through the crowds, he could see her carefully navigate the awkwardness, her grasp of the situation as delicate as a spider's web. Listening to her discuss the community center, their hopes spilling out like sunlight through a cracked window, he felt a clarity wash over him. She was light, and in contrast, he felt the heavy shadows of expectation lurking behind his back. In a moment of relative calm, he leaned closer. "Are you okay?" Maria met his gaze, her expression equal parts confidence and vulnerability. "I am," she replied, though he could see the uncertainty in her eyes. "It's just a lot. Hey, remember why we're here. This is for the people who need us," he encouraged, placing a reassuring hand on her arm. The contact sent a warm jolt through him, igniting the buried feelings that had been growing. Just then, a prominent figure stepped forth from the shadows. Margaret, James's former business partner, with a razor-sharp smile that could slice through glass. "James. Oh, and who could this be?" Her voice dripped with skepticism. James cleared his throat, trying to keep the tide from crashing over. "Margaret, this is Maria. She's the inspiration behind the center we're raising funds for." Maria straightened, clearly aware of the challenge standing before her. "It's nice to meet you, Margaret," she said, her voice steady, though he recognized the tension building beneath the surface. Margaret's gaze sharpened, dissecting Maria as if she were an unfamiliar specimen. "A cleaning lady with dreams?" "How quaint," she replied, her tone laced with condescension. James felt his blood boil. A wave of protectiveness surged within him as he prepared to interject, but Maria caught his eye, an unvoiced plea passing between them. Somehow, he sensed she wanted to handle this herself. "Actually," she said boldly, "the community center is about giving families a place to belong, where the children can find opportunities. I believe that's worth more than just titles." The words hung in the air, electrifying the atmosphere. With her passion, she radiated a force that quieted judgment if only for a moment. He swelled with pride, yet wondered, did she feel the weight of the potential divide between them? James looked around the room, gauging the shifting reactions of their audience. Some nodded in respect, others sneered in disdain. As the night wore on, whispers erupted like wildfire, and he found himself drawn closer to Maria, their connection deepening with every laugh, every shared gaze. By the time they moved in sync to the rhythm projected from the speakers, the line between acceptance and rejection blurred, stitching their fates together a little tighter. But as they danced under the soft lights, James couldn't shake the sense that this wasn't just a celebration for the community, it was a test of their resolve. Could they withstand the scrutiny? Was their bond strong enough to brave the storm that was brewing? What would happen when the night's glow faded, and the hard realities of their worlds came knocking once more? Through the laughter and applause, one thought echoed within him: would love be enough to conquer the whispers, or would it only ignite the fire of an impending battle? The party swirled around them, an elegant blur of laughter and conversation, but for James and Maria, it felt as if they existed in a world of their own. Their bodies swayed to the music, but his thoughts raced far ahead of the rhythm. He recalled Maria's words, her passion igniting something deep within him. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. They spun and twirled like stars caught in the gravitational pull of each other, yet he wondered if the warmth between them would withstand the cold that surrounded them. Glancing around the room, he noticed lingering eyes, sideways glances, frowned brows. It was all too familiar. Wealth had a way of creating distance, even a chasm, between people. And now, here they were, straddling that very divide. His chest tightened. "I'm proud of you for saying that to Margaret," he murmured, breaking their dance to pull her closer. "You were amazing." Maria smiled softly, but there was a flicker of something darker in her eyes. "I hope she didn't leave too deep a mark. I didn't want to ruin our night." "Hey, you didn't," he reassured her, stroking her arm gently. "The night is still ours." The energy shifted slightly as another couple joined them, a carefree pair, decked in jewels, all smiles and laughter. It felt disingenuous, a forced brightness against the underlying tension. James felt Maria stiffen beside him, and he instinctively stepped in front of her, a barrier against the judgment that crept ever closer. "Isn't this event just lovely?" the woman chirped, pretending not to notice the tension. "I can't believe the center is addressing such important issues. So noble of the wealthy to lend a hand." James's smile faltered as he sensed Maria's discomfort. He could see the flicker of hurt in her eyes, and every instinct in him screamed to defend her, to lift her up and send the shallow smiles packing. But he held his response, wanting to preserve the glimmer of hope that had brightened Maria's spirit. "Indeed. It's remarkable what people can do when they come together," he replied, his voice steady. "Maria's been doing an incredible job rallying support for the center." "Oh, is she involved in the planning?" the man sneered, glancing at Maria appraisingly. "I thought, well, it just sounds like quite an undertaking." That was it. James's temper surged again, ready to boil over, but Maria smiled softly. "I believe that every bit helps. Every little action accumulates to create real change." Swallowing hard, James recognized the strength behind her words. She was brave, an unstoppable force in the face of condescension. It left him in awe, but also filled him with dread. The room swirled again as the voices faded into a muted background noise, leaving only the raw emotion that pulsed between them. "Let us step outside," he suggested, needing air. The balcony overlooked the city, a contrasting scene of calm in a chaotic world. Once outside, the cool breeze kissed their faces, clearing away the remnants of judgment they'd left behind. Maria leaned against the railing, her expression distant, gazing down at the sprawling city below. "Did I do okay?" she asked, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "You were incredible," he said, leaning close. "But do you always want to fight? To prove yourself?" A heavy silence hung in the air between them, punctuated only by the distant sounds of the party. "I don't want to just be a cleaning lady," Maria finally admitted, her gaze steady on his face. "I want to show people that I'm more than what they see." Her words hit him hard, resonating with every corner of his heart. But as he opened his mouth to respond, a shout erupted from inside, slicing through the night like glass breaking. The jovial atmosphere transformed into gasps and murmurs. "What now?" Maria whispered, eyes widening. James felt a shiver climb his spine. "I don't know." Stepping back from the railing, he could sense a pulse of something beyond anxiety. The evening might be begun with shimmering hope, but it felt like that hope was fraying at the edges, ready to unravel. They hesitated, the laughter inside being replaced by the tightening walls of tension that seemed to press in around them. How much longer could they hold on, keep pretending that love could fortify them against the world's judgment? And just then, the doors burst open, and startled faces around the party turned toward them. "James! We need you!" a voice called out over the confusion. "What is going on?" James shouted, the unease in his gut growing heavier. But before he could grasp what awaited him, all he could manage was to squeeze Maria's hand, a quiet promise that echoed between them. What would they face when the truth finally came crashing down? The crowd was a sea of confusion, faces morphing from joyous celebration to sheer panic. James held Maria's hand tightly, hoping against hope that whatever storm this might be, they could weather it together. He scanned the room, where whispers had turned to urgent shouts, each one a reminder of the world they lived in, a world fraying at the seams. "Let us go," he urged, pulling Maria beside him as they stepped back toward the entrance, where anxious guests clustered like leaves caught in a gust. The air buzzed with uncertainty, and James could feel the weight of every eye on them, waiting for answers that seemed out of reach. "James!" Someone shouted again, a familiar voice. It was Sam, his friend from college. James had forgotten he'd be at the party. Sam rushed toward them, face pale. "It's bad, really bad. There's been an accident." "What do you mean?" James's heart raced. He could feel the tension in the air thicken around them. "There was a fight, someone's hurt." "I think they're calling an ambulance," Sam said, breathless. "You should check it out." "No," Maria interjected, her voice steadier than he expected. "You should stay. I'll go see what's happening." "Absolutely not," he insisted, squeezing her hand tighter. They'd faced enough judgment tonight without adding potential danger to the mix. Maria looked up at him, her eyes fierce and alive, but they also glimmered with fear. "Someone might need help, James. You know I can't stand by." Before he could argue, Maria slipped her hand from his and moved toward the chaos brewing just inside the doors. James cursed under his breath, torn between the instinct to protect her and the understanding of her unyielding spirit. Sighing, he followed her in, both wanting to shield her but not wanting to suffocate her fierceness. Inside, the atmosphere was charged with anxiety. People whispered and pointed, some overwhelmed, while others seemed to relish the drama. The sight on the dance floor was jarring. A man sprawled on the ground, surrounded by a small group administering first aid, with blood pooling around him. "What happened?" James barked, pushing through the throng. "Just a misunderstanding," Sam replied, his eyes darting nervously. "But whoever threw the punch, he's gone. People were pressing him about some bad business, shady deals. I think he couldn't take it anymore." James scanned the area until his gaze landed on a couple of wealthy guests, their expressions flickering between horror and schadenfreude. They were more concerned about how the incident would reflect on them than on the man on the floor. The sight stirred a bitter anger within him. It was everything he despised about their world. "Maria," he started, only to find her kneeling by the victim, her hands pressed against his wound, focusing all of her energy on the injured man. A wave of panic shot through him. "What are you doing?" "I'm helping," Maria said, her voice fierce yet gentle, as calm as a summer breeze even in the chaos. "He needs support." Surrounded by chaos, James felt himself disconnect. He wanted to protect her from the fallout of this world, from the eyes that judged, the words that cut. But here she was, stitching together hope amidst the wreckage. Suddenly, the sirens wailed outside, approaching fast. It sent a ripple through the crowd, forcing some backward, while others strained to get a better look. "Time to step back," Sam said, his voice barely heard over the wailing. James's heart raced. As the medics arrived, Maria looked up, her expression resolute. He was struck by the image of her there, an unwavering force in a storm of indifference. In that moment, he realized she was so much more than he had ever known. Yet uncertainty crawled back into his mind. What if this was only the beginning of a much bigger fallout, one that would expose every latent anger and prejudice in their lives? Would love survive this? Would it thrive, or would it crumble under the eyes of those who believed they had the right to judge? As the medics took over, James held Maria's gaze. He saw strength there, but also a flicker of fear. They both knew things had changed. And just when he thought he understood the distance that wealth could create, a shadow moved through the crowd, setting off a cold realization in his heart. What would the next revelation mean for them? The echoes of sirens faded into the background, leaving only the frantic murmurs and sharp breaths of the crowd. As the paramedics hurried to tend to the injured man, a sense of urgency permeated the air. James stepped closer to Maria, his heart pounding as he watched her push aside the barriers of fear. "Please, be careful," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. The intensity of what was happening around them felt overwhelming, like waves crashing down upon both of them. Maria nodded, her focus unwavering. "I have to do this, James. He needs me." Her hands pressed harder against the wound, her determination a bright light amidst the chaos. James had always admired her strength, but right now, it worried him. The darkness surrounding the situation seemed to seep into every corner of the room. As he watched, the medics arrived, quickly taking over the scene. They shouted commands, and the crowd parted, giving them space to work. But in that moment of circular motion and muffled voices, all he could see was Maria, her intense gaze, her steady hands. She was a beacon. "Just breathe, take it easy," one of the medics said to the man, who groaned in response. The crowd stilled, a collective intake of breath accompanying the victim's struggle. The reality of their surroundings slammed into James's chest. "Maria," he called again, but the words hung in the air, lost to the confusion. The sharp edge of his worry pricked at him. Someone was hurt, yes, but it felt personal now, like a dark stain on the night that threatened to engulf them both. The tension mingled with the weight of judgment from the onlookers. Some whispered, exchanging stories about who the man was and what had led to this moment. Others simply gawked, their satisfaction in the chaos evident, an ugly undercurrent to an otherwise dazzling party. "Get a hold of yourself, James," he muttered under his breath. Frustration built within him. He wanted to scream for everyone to leave Maria and the victim alone, to show some respect. But all he could do was stand there, a bystander in his own unmoored world. Then, as if the universe had decided to peel back the layers of fate and confront him with a harsh truth, a figure emerged from the shadows of the crowd. It was the man who had thrown the punch, the very shadow he had sensed moments before. A broad-shouldered guy, his expression betraying a mixture of remorse and defiance, caught James's eye. "Stay back!" James shouted instinctively, stepping between the man and Maria, rage flaring within him. "What are you doing here?" The man's brow furrowed, confusion flickering. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." His voice trembled like a tightrope balanced under a heavy load. It escalated. James felt the walls closing in. He could hardly process what he was hearing amidst the feverish pulse of the crowd. "You're a coward," he spat, venom lacing his words. "You think you can just walk away from this?" Maria's grip tightened on the victim as she overheard their exchange. Her calming presence broke through the noise. "Stop, James." Turning to the man, she said, "You need to leave. This isn't about you anymore." Turning back to James, she added, "Our priority is him, not this fight." Her voice held the weight of their reality. James felt the simmering emotions ebb slightly as he remembered the man on the ground, caught between breaths. The sirens howled again in the distance as another wave of paramedics rushed in, a flood of efficiency that swept away chaos. But as the tension stretched, a chilling sense of foreboding nestled deep inside him. What would this all mean? From just a misunderstanding to something darker, James couldn't shake the feeling that this night would change everything, and worse, that what was at stake now was far greater than he had ever imagined. And out of that heated confrontation, he could almost sense the gathering storm, hinting at something far more sinister lurking in the depths of their lives. A late-night phone call, an unfamiliar name whispered in silence. What would it reveal, and how would it pull each thread of their existence tighter? The night still held its secrets, and with it, James felt the ground shift beneath their very foundation. James shuffled back, torn between his anger and the chaos unfolding before him. He could see how Maria's voice cut through the panic like a knife. A deep breath struggled to escape him as he realized he was losing himself to the tide of emotions swirling in the air. The paramedics worked with practiced efficiency, focused on the man writhing in distress. Maria remained a steady anchor, her eyes locked onto the victim, her hands hired for duty, not fear. She wasn't about to back down. It was almost hypnotic. Her courage lit up the space around them even as darkness besieged the night. "Sir, we need to move him to the stretcher." A medic shouted, and a group of 4 shifted into action. James felt the need to step in, to protect Maria from the chaos that had blossomed so suddenly. "Maria, just step back a bit," he urged, but she shook her head firmly, her resolve like granite in his eyes. "No, James. He needs to be stabilized first. Trust me." His heart raced as the sirens blared once more, echoing the unease that twisted his guts. The onlookers, still murmuring and speculating, drifted to the edges of the scene like ghosts wanting to be part of something alive but too scared to embrace it fully. In the corner of his eye, James noticed the man who had thrown the punch still lingering, uncertainty written on his face. It was unsettling. Anger bubbled in James's chest once again. Who was he to stand there while someone fought for their life? "Look," James shouted, addressing the man, "get out of here. You've done enough." The man hesitated, eyes darting from James to the victim. "I really didn't mean for it to happen," he muttered, voice cracking under the weight of shame. James scoffed, "Intentions don't matter when someone ends up like that. You think saying you're sorry is enough?" Before the man could respond, Maria stepped away from the scene for the briefest moment, her patience wearing thin. "Enough," she declared, her voice steady yet commanding. The crowd turned towards her and the moment seemed suspended in time, eyes wide in collective anticipation. "Listen, I know you all want to speculate and pass judgment, but that man on the ground is what matters right now. If any of you have something to contribute that can help, do it. Otherwise, give us some space." An unexpected silence fell over the crowd, and people shifted uncomfortably, taking her words to heart. In that instant, James recognized the power of her presence, the calm she exuded that could gather respect amidst chaos. But just as the heaviness lifted momentarily, an ominous feeling coiled tightly in his stomach. It was a déjà vu sensation, a flicker of impending dread. Then something shifted. A cry echoed from behind them, sounding out of breath, frantic. James whipped around, his heart leaping into overdrive. A woman burst through the crowd, her eyes wide and frantic. "Where is he? Where's my brother?" James felt Maria stop dead in her tracks, her face paling. "Oh no," she whispered. The new arrival had brought with her an alarming new reality. Everything shifted again, like the turning of a storm's eye. "Who is your brother?" James asked, bracing himself for an answer that could unravel them all. And as he awaited her response, a chilling thought struck him. What if the victim was more than just a random stranger? What if there was a deeper connection, a web of stories he and Maria were about to get tangled in? With a swift glance at Maria, whose gaze mirrored his fear, he felt the ground tremble beneath them once more. They had entered a realm where secrets and lives intertwined, and not all threads unraveled easily. What was hidden in the shadows of the night that could change everything for them all? The woman's breath came in ragged bursts, each word tumbling out like a desperate plea. "His name is Alex. He was just walking home." Her hands trembled as she brushed her hair back from her face, revealing tear-streaked cheeks. At the mention of the name, James felt a chill creep down his spine. He recognized it. Alex had always been a popular figure in their neighborhood, friendly, always helping out, a face that lit up the park during summer barbecues. To see him now, on the ground, fighting for life, felt like a punch in the gut. "Maria," he breathed, trying to keep his composure. "We need to find out what happened. It can't just be an accident. Not like this." But Maria was already moving, her focus shifting to the woman. "Did you see what happened? Did Alex get into a fight? Anything you can remember?" The woman squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, fighting to recall. "I was at the diner when I got the call. They said he got into some trouble. But he wouldn't hurt anyone. He's not like that, I swear." James could feel the heaviness clawing at his throat, threatening to strangle him. Behind them, the paramedics worked frantically, their urgency palpable as they continued to attempt to revive Alex. The world closed in, the crowd around them fading into a dull hum. As the woman covered her mouth, gasping for breath, Maria gently placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her in the moment. "You need to stay calm. We'll figure this out together." But just then, the original assailant stepped closer, an apparent decision in his eyes. "I didn't mean to hit him," he blurted out, desperation lacing his words. "It was an accident. Alex, he just wouldn't back down." James stepped toward him, every nerve in his body igniting with the need to confront. "What does that mean? What do you mean he wouldn't back down?" Before the man could respond, an officer arrived on scene, moving assertively. "What is going on here?" His tone was steady but authoritative, cutting through the chaos. The woman's fear transformed into resolve as she faced the officer. "You have to help him. That's my brother." The officer nodded, turning his attention to the scene unfolding with methodical focus. "Let me get the story straight. Who was involved?" As each voice spoke a chaotic mixture of fear and regret, James felt the stirrings of a deeper connection growing. This wasn't just about Alex, it was lives colliding, intersecting in a moment of crisis. Could he have known more? Should he have done something differently? Maria was still holding vigil beside the woman, their eyes locked, sharing an unspoken bond of solidarity in the face of suffering. James's heart swelled with admiration for her, but it was inevitable, the shadow of uncertainty enveloped them all. With adrenaline coursing through him, he grabbed Maria gently by the arm, pulling her aside. "What if we're not just witnesses? What if we're tangled into this somehow?" Her response was a mixture of realization and fear, eyes already waning with the weight of possibilities. "We can't ignore that. We have to stay involved, to find the truth." Just then, a paramedic shouted from the scene, "We're losing him." The frantic energy surged once more, cutting through every heartbeat like a dagger. James felt the earth beneath him give way into unease. Maria's face trembled, reflecting his inner tempest. They reached an understanding. Courage had led them here, but now it was tangled in a web of souls intertwined in darkness. Could they bear what was coming next? Would they find a way to cut through it, or would they too become ensnared in the night? As he and Maria turned back toward the scene, the air felt charged, thick with emotion. Something had changed, the stakes had been raised. What secrets lay beneath the surface of Alex's story, ready to explode into their lives? The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer, merging with the chaos that surrounded them. James felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He struggled to breathe, each inhalation a sharp reminder of what was at stake. Alex, someone they all cared for, was fighting for his life, and they were left floundering, desperate for answers. Maria's hand trembled as it brushed against his, the warmth of her skin both grounding and electrifying. "James, we can't just stand here. We have to find out the truth, whatever that may be." Her voice was determined, but he could see the flicker of fear in her eyes. "Right. But how?" "We don't even know what really happened," he replied, his mind racing through the options, trying to piece together the puzzle. They turned back to the scene, where paramedics were carefully working, their bodies molded into an intense focus of life and death. The smell of antiseptic mingled with the chilling scent of uncertainty hanging in the air. The crowd pressed against each other, whispering fears and hopes, faces pale and strained. James spotted the assailant, still nearby, visibly shaken. Rage flared within him, but he held it back. "You!" he shouted, taking a step forward, his heart thumping hard against his ribs. "You need to tell us everything you know. What did Alex say? What happened before you hit him?" The man recoiled, fear flooding his features. "I swear, I didn't mean to. We were just arguing." He wouldn't listen. His words bounced off the pavement, desperate and raw. "Arguing about what?" Maria pressed, taking a step toward him. "What could possibly lead to something like this?" I don't know. He ran a shaky hand through his hair, glancing nervously at the officers arriving. I thought he was being reckless, but it just escalated so fast. James exchanged a quick look with Maria. They both knew they were running out of time. The urgency clawed at them, reminding them there were lives hanging in the balance, tangled with their own. We need to find out where this happened, who else was involved, James said, the resolve swelling within him. But as the crowd grew thicker, the officer started calling for calm. Move back, everyone. We need space. His voice sliced through the uncertainty, yet the murmurs of the crowd continued to ripple, fueled by fear and curiosity. Maria leaned closer to James, her breath warm against his ear. What if Alex was trying to help someone? What if he was in the wrong place at the wrong time? The possibilities hung heavy, swirling around them, intensifying each heartbeat. They needed clarity, and time was slipping away like sand through their fingers. James pulled Maria aside slightly. We can't wait for someone else to figure this out. We need to dig deeper. He knew the risks. They could lose themselves in this mess, or worse become lost in memory and regret. But something in him wouldn't allow him to just walk away. As they turned to leave, they overheard the officer speaking to a bystander. We believe there could be witnesses who saw the entire thing unfold. James gripped Maria's hand tighter, hope igniting within. We have to find them. We need to get those answers. The two of them moved with purpose, navigating the crowd, their determination set. Could they piece together what had happened to Alex? Would the truth shield them from the impending storm, or would it drag them deeper into chaos? As they reached the edges of the crowd, a voice called out from behind. Wait! You don't understand what you're getting into. They turned, puzzled by the sudden warning that danced in the air, leaving them with a sense of foreboding. Who were they really dealing with, and what shadows were lurking just out of sight? James and Maria whipped around, the urgency of their mission momentarily eclipsed by the figure that stood behind them. A woman with wide, alarmed eyes and tangled hair emerged from the shadows, her clothes slightly wrinkled but her expression earnest. Please, you have to listen to me, she said, breathless as she pushed through the thinning crowd. Who are you? James asked, watching her closely. There was an intensity in her gaze that went beyond mere panic. My name is Linda. I saw what happened, we all did. She darted her eyes around, as if wary of eavesdroppers. But you don't understand, you don't know who you're messing with. Maria stepped forward, the weight of their dilemma urging her on. What do you mean? We have to find out what happened to Alex. You can help us. Linda hesitated, glancing over her shoulder again before lowering her voice. I don't think it was just an argument. There's more at play here, something dangerous. I need you to trust me. Her eyes were pools of fear and urgency, sparking a sense of intrigue in James. Just tell us everything you know, he said, unable to mask the urgency in his tone. The world around them seemed to fade, leaving only the weight of her words hanging between them. They were arguing, yes, but Alex was trying to stop something, she began, her voice trembling with the memories. There was this substance involved, like a deal gone wrong. I don't know the details, but it felt bigger than any of us. James and Maria exchanged glances, piecing together the fragments. Substance? What kind of deal? Maria pressed, the back of her mind buzzing with worry for her friend. I can't say for certain, Linda continued. But I saw a really shady group. They were watching him before everything escalated. She drew a shaky breath. I think they were waiting for the perfect moment. Were you with anyone else? James asked, feeling a glimmer of hope that others might help make sense of it all. Anyone else who could corroborate your story? Linda swallowed hard. I was alone. I didn't want to get involved. But now, seeing what happened to Alex, her voice trailed off, tears welling in her eyes. Let us get you somewhere safe first, Maria urged, instinctively reaching for her arm. "Then we can talk more." Before Linda could respond, a loud shout pierced the air. "Hey! You can't just leave." An officer was breaking through the throng, moving toward them. The tension escalated as the crowd parted, eyes darting to the scene of a confrontation. "Run!" James grabbed Maria's hand, the urgency clawing at him. They wove through the crowd, pulling Linda along, her heart racing alongside theirs. Each hurried step felt charged with desperation, adrenaline coursing through their veins. They ducked into a narrow alleyway, pressing against the cold brick, trying to catch their breath. "What now?" Maria panted, glancing around. Linda trembled beside them, an echo of fear lingering in her eyes. "We can't go back out there. If they see me," she didn't finish the thought, but the implication was clear: this was far from over. "We need to find the others who witnessed this," James said, fighting back his own fear. "If we can get more people to come forward, we might stand a chance." But deep down, he knew the stakes went higher than just Alex. The pulse of danger throbbed like a heartbeat. Were they exposing themselves to something they weren't ready to confront? Just as they began to formulate a plan, the distant sounds of sirens returned, echoing ominously in their ears. Their world was closing in, and the truth still dangled just out of reach. "We need to be careful," Maria whispered, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "What if they're watching?" As they exchanged worried glances, an unsettling thought crept in. What if asking questions was the first step into a maelstrom? The shadows were growing longer, and somewhere, something was about to break. What were they entering into, and would they be able to escape unscathed? The sirens pulsed through the night, blending with the hum of fear and urgency that hung over them. James, Maria, and Linda crouched in the alley, breaths shallow and hearts racing. Each minute felt like an eternity, teetering between unease and the desperate hope that they could save Alex. "Okay," James said, his voice low but steady, "we need to regroup. We need to talk to those who saw what happened." "Linda, can you think of anyone else who was around?" Her brow furrowed as she raked through her memories. "There might be a guy I saw near the diner. He was always hanging around, maybe he can help." Maria, clutching Linda's hand, nodded. "Let us find him. We can uncover the truth. But we have to be careful. The last thing we need is to draw attention to ourselves." With that, they slipped out of the alley, shadowed figures weaving through the crowd. The frantic energy buzzed in the atmosphere, a stark contrast to the rising tension they clutched in their hearts. "What if we get caught?" Linda whispered, glancing nervously at passers-by. "What if they find out I was even here?" "Stay close to us," James reassured her, "and we'll keep moving. We'll find somewhere quiet." They navigated through the throngs of partygoers, leaving behind the laughter and frivolity that felt so foreign now. The light from the storefronts flared like distant stars, illuminating their path while casting a shadow over the chaos surrounding Alex's condition. The world lost its vibrance, reduced to whispers and hurried footsteps. As they approached a familiar diner, Maria spotted someone lingering outside. Her heart raced. "That might be him," she said, pointing discreetly. James stepped out of the shadows and called out softly, "Hey! You over there." The man turned, wary at first, but his expression shifted when he recognized their faces. "What are you doing here?" he asked, stepping closer, urgency lining his features. "We need your help," James said, his eyes searching the man's face. "We're looking for answers about what happened to Alex." The man's face fell, dread hovering around him. "I heard there was an incident, but I don't know much," he replied, glancing around. "But I saw who was causing trouble. I can show you." "Please," Maria urged, her voice steady and filled with purpose. "This is important. Every detail counts." He hesitated, then nodded, a mix of horror and determination in his expression. "All right. Follow me." They ducked around the side of the diner, where the noise faded, and they could speak freely. "I was there," he began, lowering his voice. "Alex tried to break up a fight between that guy and some others. They were pushing drugs, and he didn't want any part of it." James clenched his fists, anger boiling within him. "So it wasn't random? He was trying to help?" "Exactly," the man confirmed, flushing with urgency. "But when he stepped in, things escalated fast. That guy he's not stable. He took a swing at Alex, and before I knew it, everything went to hell." A silence pulsed between them. Each revelation was a heavy weight, compounded by the harsh reality of their friend in danger. "Do you know where the men who were fighting went?" Maria pressed. The man nodded slowly. "Yeah. They tend to hang out in the old warehouse down by the docks. But I wouldn't go there, it's a risky area." A cold realization began to seep into James's thoughts. "If we're going to help Alex, we need to confront the truth. They might have information." "Exactly," Maria said, her voice firm, unwavering. "We can't just wait around. We need to find out what's really going on." "I'll go with you," the man said, stepping closer, determination etched in his features. "I owe it to Alex." They exchanged uncertain glances, each aware of the potential danger they faced. But fear was no match for the urgency pulsing in their veins. James nodded, his heart swelling with an unspoken rallying cry, a shared resilience igniting between them. "Let us do this." As they turned to make their way toward the old warehouse, they felt as though the night opened wide before them, each step a plunge into uncertain waters. But with each movement forward, they were lit by a glowing hope, a burning belief that love and courage could still guide them through the darkest moments. The docks loomed ahead, clad in shadows and echoing whispers of a world they'd only glimpsed from afar. As James led the way, he felt Maria's hand find his arm, steadying him as the night wrapped around them like a shroud. "What if they see us?" Linda whispered, hesitating just at the threshold of light and dark. James steeled himself. "If they see us, then we'll face it together. We cannot turn back now." And in those moments of fear and determination, courage redefined itself. They were not merely racing against the clock, they were forging a path toward truth, a chance to recapture a friendship and rekindle hope amidst a storm that threatened to tear them apart. As the decaying warehouse loomed before them like a portent of fate, they pushed through the door, ready to confront what lay beyond. Inside, shadows twisted and turned, dancing around them like phantoms, and the air thickened with the smell of impending danger. But what they found in that moment held the key to everything: truth, redemption, and ultimately, their intertwined destinies. And while Alex's fate remained uncertain, one thing was crystal clear: together, they could forge a light strong enough to illuminate even the deepest darkness. This was their moment, a final chance to reclaim not only a friend but also every shred of hope they had lost along the way. As they stepped deeper into the warehouse, the world outside faded into an uncertain expanse, but within them, a fire ignited. They were ready to fight, to seek the truth, and to transform the shadows into a tapestry of unity and love. This was just the beginning. And as their hearts raced together with every step, they knew, sometimes destiny could only be embraced when risk outweighed caution. Would love triumph amidst the chaos, or would they find themselves lost in the dark? Only time would reveal the outcome of this night. But deep inside, they felt it, the pulse of something remarkable beginning to unfold. And just as they crossed over the threshold of the unknown, the world vibrated with the energy of transformation, leaving a whisper behind: the power of love would lead the way. Now, it's time for you to step into action. You need to subscribe now to not miss our next exclusive story that could change everything. Hit that like button to feed the algorithm and show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this unforgettable journey with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Join us and be part of a community that believes in the power of love and resilience. Let your voice be heard. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this ending. We can't wait to hear from you. Together, let us spread hope.